back. Play fake. They want to throw it back in the end zone to Ben Koyak. Caught in the back of the end zone. Touchdown Jacksonville. A play fake and a touchdown pass to Ben Koyak.
Let's go sideline to sideline with Peter King, NFL insider for Mad Dog Unleashed.
Ryan takes the snap, fakes it to Freeman, back foot throw, loops it, Jones the catch, touchdown Atlanta. Julio Jones, Ryan was slipping. He managed to get enough on it and put the ball in the air for Jones.
It's an unbelievable throw by anticipation throw by Matt Ryan.
Peter has covered the NFL for over 30 years. He's the godfather of NFL writers, and he's now editor-in-chief of his own website, the mmqb.com.
Mariota takes the snap, steps up, throws down the middle. There's Decker. Touchdown! Titans! Eric Decker hauls her in from 22 yards out, and the Titans now have 22 and lead this wild card game by a digit.
There's no better place for NFL conversation than Peter and Doggy's weekly chat.
4th and 23 from the 34. Here's Newton under pressure, and he's going to be tackled and sacked and dropped. And it's two Saints who have him, Cam Jordan being one and Von Bell being the other. And that is the final play of this game. Let's go to Minneapolis.
Now let's break the huddle with Mad Dog and Peter King.
Yes, indeed. We got to do plenty of football today, too. The great Peter, of course, every Tuesday at 4 o'clock. We'll get back to the college a little later on. Mr. King says hello. Peter, welcome. How are you today, pal? Okay?
Chris, as I tweeted this morning, I think I picked the wrong day to go to sleep at 8 o'clock at night, didn't I?
Yeah, you may have. Well, good line, Pete. That's why I love you. You make fun of yourself.
Hey, how about this, though? How about this?
Yep.
This amazes me. Okay, I had Troy Aikman on my podcast today. It's going to be up tomorrow. And you'll run it this weekend, Chris. You're going to love this one.
You know, I have not been invited on this podcast yet. You're making all this.
Will you come on my podcast?
I mean, you've done getting all this publicity, and I never get an invite. But go ahead, talk about it.
All right, yeah. So, Chris, and I mentioned this, and it just occurred to me. I mentioned this to Aikman, and we both sort of marveled at it. Listen to this. The two quarterbacks on the field in the second half of the national championship game for Georgia and Alabama, just over a year ago, were both playing high school football games.
It is hard to believe.
That.
It is hard
unbelievable.
To believe. 100%. They're legit freshmen, no question about it. And the game was a crazy finish. A lot of calls went against Georgia. That's a big theme of the game, Peter. But it was a fun game to watch and everything else.
Let me ask you this. Yeah. Are the callers really ticked off about the officiating?
Yeah, it's a combination of a lot of things. They're annoyed. The Georgia fans annoyed because Kirby Smart got conservative. Yeah. The Alabama fan wants to canonize Sabin, and why not? He's one of the all-time great coaches. And then a lot of it's the officiating. Speaking of Sabin, let's do him for a sec.
Yeah.
Why is it because he took Culpepper instead of Breeze? Why did he not make it in Miami?
Yeah, this is a one-issue thing. I was talking to Aikman about this today. I said, did you ever think how NFL history would have been changed if the Dolphins doctors had passed Drew Brees on their physical in March 2006, and they didn't do that? Remember, Brees coming off shoulder surgery after his last year quarterback in San Diego, and he wanted to go to Miami. And there were two teams interested in him, the Saints and Miami. And in order to get him, the Saints gave him a 6-year, $60 million on his contract. And he's told me about this over the years, that he always felt more wanted in New Orleans anyway, even though they were coming off Katrina and they were still a threat to be moved and all that stuff. But I do think that if Drew Brees had gone to Miami, I think there's a very good chance that Nick Sabin would have coached out his years. Maybe not coached out forever, but he would have coached a long time in Miami because he would have gone into every season with a legitimate chance to win the Super Bowl.
Do you think down deep he regrets the fact how he bailed out after 2 years?
He should. I think. I thought that was terrible. I mean, beyond terrible. You don't get all that control and all that authority and everything from Huizenga, and after 15 months on the job, 23 months on the job, walk into Huizenga's office or whatever and say I want out. That's never sat well with me.
Why is it that the Petrino did the same thing in Atlanta? Nick, he had won a championship at LSU. I guess I know he coached with the Browns. He was with Belichick, Ferenz on that staff in Cleveland.
Yep.
So he had NFL experience. Why do you think? And he could have had anything he wanted at LSU. Why do you think he took he was in his late 50s, mid 50s? Why do you think he took the plunge?
Just to see. He had done a lot in college football. Now remember, Chris, this is a guy who went to college football and really got what he considered to be a dream job, going to Michigan State at first. And then he won a national championship, obviously, at LSU. And so I'm sure he's thinking, is that all there is? I can now conquer the NFL, too. And so he tries, and I really have always felt this. I've always felt that, whenever he does retire, and I don't think he'll go back to the NFL. I really don't. I don't
think he's too old. He's 66. No way.
Well, and not only that, but I think, my opinion is, I think he burned a bridge or two last year with the Giants. In sort of, I don't want to say leading them down the path, but probably being a little bit more, hey, I might do this, whatever. However it worked out last year, the Giants were left with the impression that they had a chance to get safe.
Oh, I didn't realize that. I know that George Young, back in whenever it was, always had Saban on a short list. And when he fired Reeves, he went to Fossil. And I know he went to Fossil because he wanted a quarterback guru to help his QBs. But I know there was a lot of love there that George had for Saban then. I did not realize it. Before the Giants hired McAdoo, they basically flirted with Saban, you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a vague story, okay? But there was something to it. I don't know how far down the road they got. I really don't know. But there was a conversation that never came to fruition.
All right. Before we get to the 4 games, how close is Saban and Belichick? I know they played golf together at that AT&T thing in February.
You know what, Chris? Jenny Varentis of our staff has a great story that we're going to run out next week. I mean, this is such a cool story. It's about the relationship of Belichick and Saban, and it is deep, it is meaningful, and it goes way, way,
I'll
way
be into
back.
That. I'll be into that.
You're going to love this story. It's really, really good.
Oh, I'll be totally into that.
Jenny did a terrific job. As a matter of fact, we're still working on it a little bit. But, I mean, Chris, just think about this for a second. Think about this. Think about how Bill Belichick and Nick Sabin coached together with the Cleveland Browns.
It is hard to believe. And Ferenz is on that staff,
too. And not only
yeah.
that, I mean, this is very, very, in my opinion, I find this stuff fascinating, and you do too. But how about this? The year that the Cleveland Browns made the playoffs, okay? That was 1994, right?
Correct. Testaverde. Yep.
They're a wild card team behind Pittsburgh in the playoffs.
Yeah, beat the Patriots in the first round. Yep,
yeah.
I remember.
I mean, this to me is one of the coolest things. How about Bill Belichick, head coach of the Browns, Nick Sabin, the defensive coordinator, and they're coaching against Bill Parcells.
That is hard to believe. You got 3 of the all-time greats.
And how about this? Carl Banks started in that game
for the Browns. Wow, how about that?
Yeah.
Who's the link with all 3 of them? Fascinating. Yeah, I love Saban. I really do. I mean, I know he's not a bowl of cherries, and it's not a guy that.
Hey, you know what, Chris? As you know, a lot of the great coaches are not bowls of cherries.
I'm sure Lombardi was a pain in the neck. I know the Milwaukee Riders couldn't stand him. But there's something about I'm a big Sabin fan. I love the way he goes about it. All right, let's do since we did this whole scenario with the officials last night. You had some issues with the officials this past weekend. They, I think, blew the call in the Tennessee game on the fumble by Mariota.
No question.
Corretti didn't know about the 10-second runoff in the game there on
and the alternate official who looks like Barney Fife comes running on the field to correct it. You know what's crazy about that? The announcers knew it, but the officials on the field didn't. They had to be saved by the alternate official. That was crazy.
And Triplett obviously says he's going to retire. Were you okay with the officiating this past weekend in the NFL in these playoff games or not?
Hey, Chris, what would you say if I told you that the last 22 seconds of the first half of the Rams-Falcons game, the last 22 seconds, took 9 minutes and 22 seconds to play?
Well, you heard Al Michaels. He was cranky. Boy, he was late for his oatmeal.
You got to read, Chris, go into my column. You've got to read the section of my column on how screwed up the replay process was in there. And I'll just sum it up for you, okay? 1 minute and 22 seconds into the replay review on the field of the fumbled punt by Pharaoh Cooper. Remember that?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. 1 minute and 22 seconds into that, they find out. They show to a national TV audience. They show essentially, that the ball hit two Rams. They have a replay that shows that the ball hit two Rams.
Right.
Okay. And the announcement was not made on the field until 4 minutes and 9 seconds.
Yeah, it took them a long time.
You explain to me, why does it take 3 minutes after you see the replay to walk to the field to say, to say we got overturned or we're going to confirm this call? Why is that? The NFL has a crisis. They just do.
They have a major problem, and one of these wild card crews is going to do the Super Bowl, right?
Yeah, I think that's right, Chris. I'm not positive about that, but I think you're right on that.
All right, now why did Triplett? Was he going to retire anyway? Give me a little rundown.
I don't know. The NFL. I don't know the answer to that. I should have made a call on that, Chris, but I don't know. I just read about that, and it sort of figures, because I don't think anybody would say that he's a playoff official.
Yeah, he keeps on getting the games. He keeps on. All right, let's do a couple things here. First, Kansas City. Will there be a facelift? I got away from that game in the first game on Saturday saying, boy, the Chiefs need some changes. Whether it's Andy Reid, Smith, they can't win a playoff game at home. Something needs to be done there. I know Hunt is a good man and a very conservative guy, Clark Hunt. He's not going to go crazy, but they did win the division. But they need something to happen in Kansas City. Do you agree? And if you do, what is going to be done?
Chris, I am totally, absolutely, unequivocally mind-boggled by what happened in the second half of that game. I simply can't believe it. I mean, in the last 48 minutes of the game, the rushing champion in the NFL had 5 carries. And they had a 21-3 lead at halftime. And in the second half, Kareem Hunt was barely visible. It just, I'm totally mind-boggled by that game plan. I'm absolutely mind-boggled by it. And to me, look, Clark Hunt, everybody loves Clark Hunt, a great owner. He leaves the coaches alone, all that stuff. So all that. But if I'm the owner of that team, I got to walk in and say to Andy Reid, "Are you kidding me? We blew an 18-point lead to a team clearly that's not as good as we are, and we blew the 18-point lead at home, and we did not run the ball at all after we had a 21-3 lead. What is the story here?"
Well, you think but you don't think Reid's in trouble, do you?
I don't think he is, but I don't think he is. And I'm not saying he should be, but I thought it was abominable.
Where is Alex Smith going to play next year? They're not going to pay him $20 million. Where's he going?
My gut feeling is that he'll go to Cleveland, but that's a gut.
Cleveland,
yeah.
Clearly, because Dorsey's there.
I think also, Chris. I think there's a chance when you think about it. I think there's a chance that there's going to be a team interested in him that isn't visible yet. Okay,
well,
for instance, Arizona. What's Arizona going to do? For instance, Denver. Denver wants a veteran quarterback. All right, if they can't, John Elway really likes Case Keenum. Okay, and to the best of my knowledge, I mean, I really think Denver is going to go get a veteran quarterback, and they don't want a long-term veteran quarterback. They want to develop one. I think they're going to draft one, and they're going to get one veteran. Just
if
the
Alex
same way
Smith,
as Cleveland will.
So Cleveland will take Smith and then draft a quarterback with one of their first picks?
I'm fairly sure they will, yes.
All right, that answers that. Now, was Mularkey, and I like Mularkey, I was glad he won the game just for his own future. I know Tennessee made a big deal about it afterwards, nothing to it, but Schefter made an issue that they had to win the game. Is that the case?
I think he did, Chris. I think he did. I think that John Robinson, the general manager of the Titans, I'm hearing that he did not like the regression of Marcus Mariota this year. And I think he wanted a better teacher of the position in-house. And I really thought if they lost this game, I thought that John Robinson would go after his old friend from New England, Josh McDaniels. That's what was on the football grapevine. But would it have happened? I don't know. But that's what an awful lot of people in football believe.
All right, now, Buffalo, let's go to the other game on Sunday. If you wanted to somehow keep Tyrod Taylor, and it wasn't all his fault, they had some drop passes, and the play call at the 1 yard line early in the game when they had the pass interference was asinine. They should have scored a touchdown there with running the ball.
It's totally ridiculous.
Oh, it's stupid. Incredible. Stupid. I don't know who made
you have to explain that to me.
Oh, I wish I could.
Teams that outsmart themselves, I can't. I mean, I'm incredulous.
I don't know what McDermott's doing. He can veto the call, so he takes the hit there. What are they going to do for a quarterback down the road? The Buffalo thing was fun, but it didn't last long, that's for sure. And I'm sure they're screaming.
Buffalo's got 2 picks in the first round, 2 picks in the second round. They're taking a quarterback. I don't care how kumbaya they talk now. I don't care. When you bench your starting quarterback in the middle of a playoff race, okay, and you bench that guy, and then he comes back because he has to come back because your decision turned out to be monumentally bad. You know, when that happens, I don't care how he plays the rest of the year. That team is looking for a quarterback.
Well, that had to be the owner.
The quarterback.
The owner did that, right? Not the coach. That was an owner's call, was it not?
I don't know about that, Chris. I don't think.
You think McDermott got it?
I don't think McDermott is doing that without wanting to do it.
Wow. I was under the impression the ownership wanted them to do that. Okay. So Buffalo needs a QB. We get that. I thought, did you have a problem? And I thought he'd get the benefit of the doubt on the call, and he played really well in the game. Did you have a problem with the intentional grounding on Cam Newton on their last drive?
No. It was intentional grounding.
It was close.
It was not close.
I thought
why
it was.
Why do you say it's close?
Because when they put the 2 red lines there, he was straddling that red line.
Oh, I see. Oh, okay. All right. I thought you meant that he wasn't intentionally trying to throw the ball away.
No, I mean, he's a scrambling quarterback. It's late in the game. He throws the incomplete pass. That's a tough call to make because you ruin the game. The game's over for Carolina. That's a hard call. They made it.
I look at that call and I say that first of all, even if the call isn't made, okay, even if it isn't ruled intentional grounding, Cam Newton's still got to make 2 or 3 plays.
Well, it's 3rd and 13. Yeah, it's 3rd and 13.
Yeah, he's still got to make 2 or 3 plays down the stretch to win the game. So I empathize with that, and look, I understood that line, but I mean, if we're talking about the spirit of the rule, the letter of the rule, everything like that, by the letter of the rule, it was intentional grounding, and by the spirit of the rule, it absolutely was intentional grounding.
All right, 4th and 2. Peyton went for it instead of punting.
I don't have a problem with that at all, because in my opinion, and look, he got a break because a veteran safety, Adam,
terrible
did a
play.
Stupid thing. Man, was that dumb.
Very stupid.
And you've got to say in the huddle, hey, no interceptions, don't bat it, just get the ball to the ground. The reason I didn't have a problem with it is that they're at the 48-yard line, something like that. And if they punt the ball, okay, you're going to gain at least 32 yards, you figure, right? At least 32 yards. But I think you've got what I would say is probably a 70% chance to make 2 yards.
Right.
A veteran quarterback right there, 70% chance to make 2 yards. And he didn't make it. And so, everybody said dumb call. But in my opinion, I'll take a 70% chance of making that versus giving the ball back to Cam Newton, who had been playing well, with, a minute 50 to go, something like that. I forget, minute 40, something.
But but here's the way to look at it. I agree with you. Here's the way to look at it. Carolina, if you're a Carolina fan, you don't want them to go for it. You want them to punt because you're afraid that he's going to get the first down and the game's going to be over. So if you're a Panther fan there, you're begging that he doesn't go for it. And that's why it's not a bad decision to try it at 4th and 2.
I agree.
All right, now, the Rams took a big step back. How much does that mar their season, the great year they had? They laid an egg there on Saturday night. What's your take on that?
I don't think it's that shocking, really, that they didn't play well. Just because very young quarterback, all young skill players, the defense wasn't really bothered by it. The defense, I thought, mostly played well. Probably the secondary hurt them some, but I think the defense played pretty well. Aaron Donald had 11 pressures, for crying out loud. And I just think, a good team, great season, and it's hard for me to kill the Rams to have an off day in an environment like that.
Yeah. Now, there's a couple of games this week. Well, let's do it this way. I don't think both will be close. Which game? I think the Tennessee game will be. Which game will be close in the AFC?
I think the Jaguars game is going to be close. I don't think the Patriots game is going to be close.
Yeah.
I think Minnesota, New Orleans is the game of the weekend, and I think Atlanta's going to beat Philly.
Now listen. So you don't buy the Tennessee karma? They had a lot of juice after they won that game. You don't buy that at all?
No, I don't buy that. It isn't that I don't like Tennessee. How do you not like Tennessee after they come back and win that game? And I've got tremendous respect and appreciation for Mariota. I just think he's going to be really good for a long time. But having said that, and it's a big but, in my opinion, I think it's a little bit different going to Foxborough and having to beat Tom Brady and having Bill Belichick and Matt Patricia coming for you. I think it's going to be a whole different story when you have to go to New England.
And how much of that story do you buy last week with the issues with Brady, Kraft, and Belichick?
Chris, I don't know. I did some reporting on it over the weekend. I'm confused and bemused by it. The fact is, I wish I could tell you. I honestly wish I could tell you exactly what the story was. I know Robert Kraft on Friday night. I talked to him. He was absolutely adamant that.
What's he gonna say, Pete? He's not gonna say it's true.
Yeah, Chris, I know that. But the only point I'm making is that I've known Kraft for a long time, and to the best of my knowledge, over 20 years, he's never lied to me, and so that goes a long way with me. But I'm not in any way saying that I don't trust this story, because I do trust Seth Wickersham. But all I'm saying is that I can't tell you what the truth of that story is because I don't know it.
All right, so you don't like Tennessee in the game. Jacksonville, how are they going to score against it? I mean, listen, they're going to have to score something. They can't rely on the defense every week, and they're going to play a lot better Pittsburgh. Brown plays. He's not going to have a 37.9 quarterback rating as he did in Week 5. So Jacksonville's going to have to score. If you were Marone, how many points would you shoot for offensively? 24?
If you're Marone and God hits you on the head and said, I'm going to give you 24 points this weekend, if I'm Doug Marone, said, okay, God, you can have 5 years of my life. I mean, they're not. He's going
to have to score that, though. Pittsburgh's going to score 3 touchdowns.
I know that, Chris, but I would be surprised if Jacksonville's going to put up 24.
All right.
I think this, though. I think that the Jacksonville defense is going to either score some points or is going to create some turnovers. I think everybody said, well, Roethlisberger's not going to throw it away that much this time. He's not going to throw 5 interceptions. Well, I should hope not. But whether he throws 5 interceptions or however this goes, this is going to be a very, very tough game for the Pittsburgh Steelers to be competent to very good offensively, because Jacksonville is a swarming, really good, tough defensive team.
Yeah, I agree with all that, but I do think Pittsburgh will have some success. Will the Eagles, and Peterson's going to sell it. The whole world thinks we're underdogs. Nobody's giving it a chance. We're the number 1 seed. That's a lot for Atlanta to overcome. What's your take on that?
Well, I think that what you're going to see, this is what I'd do if I were Doug Peterson and Frank Reich, the offensive coordinator. Here's what I would do. I would absolutely I would become a running team. I'd try to play this game like a Bill Parcells, Ron Earhart game, play power run game, because in my opinion, I think that's far and away their best chance to win. Now remember this, okay? In the regular season this year, LeGarrette Blount and Jay Ajayi as Eagles combined to average 4.83 yards a carry. They got a good offensive line. And now you still are going to have to make some plays in the passing game because you can't have them loading the box all the time and loading up to stop your run. So you've got to make some plays in the pass game. But if I am Frank Reich, the offensive coordinator, and Doug Peterson, I'm running the ball 40 times Sunday.
All right. It's a tough game to call. And then finally, the Saints. I don't like the Saints this week. I think Minnesota can do both, defend the pass and the run. I think Minnesota will get tight next week, being 60 minutes away from a home game in a Super Bowl. I think this week they'll be flying. What's your take on that?
I love both of these teams. I could see either one winning. I could see Drew Brees coming in and playing a great game in Minnesota and winning, even against that really good secondary. This is the game of the weekend. I think this is 2 of the top 3 or 4 teams in football, period. I probably will pick Minnesota, but I won't sleep very good Saturday night thinking about it.
Good job, Peter. Thanks for the help today. We'll talk to you next week. Appreciate it.
Take care, Chris. Thank you.
Mr. King, great to have it. Good to have him with us here on this busy afternoon. I do think Tennessee will be a little more competitive than Jacksonville will. I just don't believe in a Jacksonville offense. I think Pittsburgh getting a second crack at him will be tricky. The Eagle-Atlanta game is very hard to call. Because of the idea, I would spend a lot of time on this as the week moves along. It's just that the whole world's picking Atlanta, and that does scare you. And the whole world thinks Atlanta's going to win the game. And Philadelphia is going to hear about it, read about it, feel it, see it, sense it, and that's going to bother them. And they're going to have a little chip on their shoulder, and they got a good defensive line, and they can run the ball, and they're home. And Atlanta played last week, coast to coast, back here, and I know it's a tricky spot. We'll see. That's an interesting game. And, that's the first game on Saturday. That's an NBC game. And then the night game Saturday is on CBS with Tennessee. And then it's Fox late Sunday. And the first game on Sunday is also CBS. Ian will do that game most likely. Yeah, I'm sure it is, with Fouts with Pittsburgh and Jacksonville. Steve's with us today. And he says hello. Yes, Mr. Torrey.
Hi, how are you, Chris?
Steve, I heard you a lot today.
Good. I'm looking forward to you critiquing.
Well, the first thing I don't understand, Steve, if I'm sitting in front of the TV set with a bunch of my buddies saying, get the guy out of the game and try something else, and Herb Street says it, we got a backup quarterback who can throw, and Rinaldi kind of indicates it at the half in the interview, why do you want to sit there and praise Nick Sabin like he's Jesus Christ because he took the quarterback out in the third quarter?
Well, here's what: if you want to kill me on something, kill me on the fact that I had no knowledge of Tua whatsoever. I'm just being fair. Well, I had no idea. I had no idea who their backup was. I didn't know anything about him. I learned during the course of the game that he was a 5-star recruit from Hawaii. And so I know that Jalen Hurts stunk. I mean, I'm aware of that, and I know he didn't play great in the previous games, against Auburn or whatever. But the fact that he had 2 losses in 2 years and got the team to 2 championships, was 25-2, and then you're pulling the guy. I got to admit, I was surprised, and I didn't. Now maybe you want to kill me on the fact that I didn't know about Tua.
Well, no, I can't kill you on that.
So from that standpoint, I'm like, wow, this is a freshman who's a true freshman, and he's going to him in the national championship game on this stage. I thought it was unbelievable. I was shocked. I agree. They were doing nothing, but I thought he deserved to at least. I just was very surprised. I don't think a lot of coaches would have the balls to do that. I really don't.
Listen, he was 3 for 8 for 20 yards.
Yeah, no, I know. I watched the game.
You had to get him out of the ball game. Yeah, you just had to.
But I know how many times do we say that and it never happens? That's the point.
I understand, but in
especially
this case,
a guy who wins and all he does is win. And you can tell me he's not great, but the fact that they've lost 2 games in 2 years and he got into 2 championships.
Again, the problem with that argument, Steve, is that at Alabama, with all the great talent they have, they've had Derrick Henry, they've had a million running backs. It's not like he has to be that good because they got so many other people there. And the kid is a 5-star recruit now.
Right, and
we
that's
don't know
the
that.
point. That's the point. I didn't know that.
But Sabin knows that. So it's not like Sabin's taking a shot in the dark, taking some crazy, putting some guy in there who nobody's ever heard of. He knows how good the kid is. He sees him in practice. He recruited him out of Hawaii.
I understand all that. But you're still talking all true. But you're still talking about, and it's different than getting a couple of snaps against Fresno State or Mercer. It's a little bit different. It's a national championship game. Steve, your team is shut out.
You couldn't do any worse.
All right, fine. But I'm just saying, for you to be outraged that I would feel that way is a little odd.
And Evan, that was very peculiar sports broadcasting.
Well, we're amateurs compared to you.
And the second thing is, Steve, if any of those 6 penalties were called correctly, Alabama loses the game.
Yeah, look, they got some breaks. They got some huge breaks.
My goodness.
But the other thing I'll say is, Georgia, and you're right, and I'm not taking anything away from that, 100% right. But Georgia gets the gift of all time. First of all, when he had a couple of moments, as good as Tua was, he had a couple of moments where he was, some freshman moments where, as we know, should have thrown the ball away and got picked off. And after Georgia gets the ball back at 20-7, and then they throw a pick on the first, that's a huge play right there. And you got the gift of all time with the shanked field goal, and then you sack them and get them out of field goal range with a shaky kicker as it is, and on 2nd and 26.
They had a bad play. I'll buy that. Right. The kid made a great pass, one play. But, after the field goal, after the interception at 20-10, Georgia had a first down at the Alabama 40. Mm-hmm. And if they call that penalty, as they should have, right in front of the side,
I don't disagree with that. I don't disagree with it.
It would have been a first down, Georgia, at the Alabama 23-yard line, 24-yard line, last minute of the third quarter. Bulldogs lead by 10. That game is over.
Yeah, you're probably right. Now, here's the other thing, and getting off this for a second. I don't know about you. It was a phenomenal second half, and it was great theater, and I loved it. It was fun. The second half was just completely fun. But it's not an all-time classic, would you agree, based on the fact that the first half was sort of ho-hum? The first half was bad, actually.
I think you can't call an all-time classic, Steve, because the Georgia fan says to himself, my God, we got ripped off at the penalties.
Yeah, and it's some truth to that. But for a lot of reasons, I can't. But it was high entertainment value in the second half.
How do they screw up the punt? That was a blocked punt. That wasn't offsides.
Yeah.
They blocked the punt. They would have had the ball at the Alabama 23-yard line at 13-0.
Yeah, the
game is over. Yeah, the game is over if they call that play right. Done. The game's finished. Even if you just kick a field goal, 16-0, Alabama's not coming back from that.
Yeah, no argument.
And that's not a pass interference on the right sideline. That's a ridiculous call on 3rd and 9 with 6 minutes to go.
Yep, you could keep the flag in the pocket.
You can't call that. The ball is not catchable. No way you can throw the flag there. Oh, my God. Now, I didn't see the movement. Did Alabama move on the touchdown pass to tie the game up? That's
what everybody's saying. I don't know if it was as blatant as the non-offsides call on the punt, but everybody was saying that there was some slight movement. But I think he maybe could have gotten away without making that one. You know what I mean? If there was one. But you're right. You're right. There were a lot. There's no doubt about it. But I didn't know anything about him, so that's a bad job by me. I mean, I had no idea he was a 5-star
Steve, I'm not
recruit.
asking you to know the recruits, but
I get it.
He didn't put a guy in there who stinks. He put in a 5-star quarterback who's got a great arm that is slinging the ball, who moved Alabama, who's slinging the ball all over the place. He sees him in practice. Smart says he knows about him. He has to put him in the game.
Yeah, that's what everybody's saying. But again, when you're talking about the Nationals, it's a little different than when you're playing Mercer. That's my point.
Steve, Hurts was beyond pathetic.
I get it, Chris. I get it. Trust me, I watched the game. I know how bad he was.
I wasn't sure. I wanted to make sure. I know there may have been an Indiana hoop game on or something.
No, they're playing tonight, 6:30 Eastern, Penn State.
Here's
going for 2 in a row.
Steve, Sports Byte. I'm Mad Dog on